Okay, done. Thanks. Okay, now personality comes from the word person. It's who you are. It is just a manifestation of who you are. So person and personality cannot be separated. So you can't develop personality in people. So I'm always amused when people run personality development program. Can personality be changed? Yes. If you want to change it and you work very hard on changing it, yes. Not otherwise. Otherwise, personality tends to remain almost the same unless there has been some very, you know, some strong events in your life or some tragic events that caused you to change your personality. Otherwise, personality tends to remain relatively stable. Now, we look at what is personality, the way it is measured, and factors and all that, and then we look at there is one tool called MBTI, whose link I'll send to you later. You can do it at your leisure. MBTI takes a long time to interpret, so I'll be spending a long time doing it. So we don't have the time for that. So we'll be using a simpler test called Big Five to understand personality, and we look at some of the other things. But we also try to understand how does personality affect jobs? How does it affect the way people work? And therefore, that is why we look at this in organization behavior. So let's go on quickly look at now what is the impact of personality? It impacts what role you have within the team. Okay, so different teams require different roles. And what is a role that you are selecting for yourself? Are you the person who takes the initiative in the team, or are you the person who waits for people to tell you what is to be done? That role depends on what you are. Or are you the troubleshooter of the team? If there are conflicts within the team, can you resolve that? Are you the communicator within the team? Do you keep the morale up? Do you tell people what is the big role? So what is the role that you choose for yourself in the team depends on the personality. It also affects how you interact with other people in the team. Okay, so team dynamics largely depend on what you and who you are as a person. Okay, so it's a now we are talking about human beings. When they come together, there are different people, and each person has a different perspective. They behave differently, they think differently, and that is why this interaction is always interesting. Now, one of the key areas is about values. Okay, so we'll look at values and the values, your personal values, how it aligns with the team. That's important. Okay, so let's look at that. Um, Now, this is a very textbook definition. Personality is a dynamic concept describing the growth and development of a person's whole psychological system. Uh, it is who that person is. Personality is the definition of that person. That is why it is called personality. It comes from the word person, and it is how an individual reacts and interacts with others. So different people react to the same thing very differently. Different people interact with others very differently. So the sum total of all that is the person's personality. Now, this also reinforces the fact that each human being is unique and you cannot compare to human beings, but you can group similar human beings in similar categories because their behavior tends to be similar. If not the same, it tends to be similar. And that is the basis on which all personality and classes of personality have been defined. So it is because you cannot always assume that each human being is different, then you can never. Now, can personality be measured? Yes, it can be measured. There have been robust measuring tools. All of them have gone through multiple rounds of research. So these are very robust learning tools. And um, some companies actually use psychometric tool to as a help to the people who are interviewing. Does some of your company follow that? Before you join, is there a test given? Okay, so Yes, there's psychometric test. Anybody, any company uses a specific psychometric test? Anybody? Okay, okay. Because I do know Wipro uses MBTI. I do know that Honeywell uses MBTI. Some of the others use either DISC or Thomson profile, which is basically the same thing. So a lot of companies use psychometric tools. It is not a foolproof method. Warning before we start, it is not foolproof. So you just can't give a psychometric and say, oh, this person is good, I'm good. But it helps you understand this person, and it always needs to be validated in an interview. So at least the interviewer knows what to validate, so that you move away from uh, the humdrum of the anything to check out, okay, is this person who the test is saying, does this person fit into my team? Will there be more conflict? Will this person contribute more? What will happen? So it gives you a slight edge when it comes to interviewing. So that is why you use psychometric tests. In fact, widely used for this one. So a lot of companies insist on independent assessment before people are promoted to managerial functions. First time managers, since there's no track record of you how you have managed a team, so psychometric and independent testing is done, um, just to check out what this person is, so that you can pick the right person for the job. Okay, so that is what the care that some companies take. Always a good practice. So, how many of you recruit people? Nobody. Okay. If you're recruiting people or your teams are recruiting, you could use psychometric tests. It helps you understand the person better. Okay, so you're not going to get some earth-shattering revelations, because there are no earth-shattering human beings, right? The people who come to your interview tend to be similar. They're normal human beings. They're a little different, a little, the way they speak, the way they look, but they tend to be very similar in the way they think. And therefore, you're not going to get some earth-shattering difference. But you could do two things. You could try to understand this person, their motivations. The second thing is that you can also understand why they behave in a particular way. So it gives you some insights into that. So we will use what is so the self-report. Yeah, come. So the self-report survey that we are talking about, we will use that to understand your personality. When we come to Big Five, we will do that. So so why do people behave the way they do? There are the common theory is that there are two basic things that shape the way you are. It is called nature and nurture. Okay, so nature and nurture is the common uh, explanation given for personality. Nature is your DNA, the way you're born with. Nurture is how did the environment around you, right from childhood, how did it affect who you are and who you became as a person. Okay, so that is what these two elements actually build your personality. Okay, so if you are trying to understand why people behave in certain ways, so there has been lot of documented evidence and surveys that have proved that children who come from a very abusive childhood, their very strict father would beat them up for nothing, would grow up with severe personality disorders. So you would have people with no empathy, for example, so they don't care. Even if you're dying, it doesn't move them, because that has been killed in childhood because of a very abusive childhood, or any childhood trauma could affect this. So the person and who you are, it affects people deeply, and you never know when a small incident can affect your personality, and why does it uh, how does it affect. So all of you know Indira Gandhi, right? Now she hated her aunt, her father's younger sister, a lady called Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. So she hated her, really, um, from the bottom of the heart, hated her aunt. And there is this lady who was a friend of Mrs. Gandhi, who's written a nice book on a biography of Indira Gandhi, a lady called Pupul Jaikar. And she's written this nice book. It's actually a very readable book on Mrs. Gandhi, other than the Congress that Indira Gandhi is the greatest type of biographies. So in the book, while she was writing the book, she asked Mrs. Gandhi, why do you hate your aunt so much? So she said, my aunt would call me a dark, ugly, stupid girl. So she said, okay. So she said, the Nehru family prided themselves on being intelligent and fair. So it was a very deadly comment to make about somebody. So she said, fine, what age were you when she told you this? She said, I was probably 6 or 7 years old. She never forgot this. She never forgave her aunt for saying this statement. Okay, so um, what we become, why we like somebody, why we hate somebody, largely has to do with our childhood traumas. So that is a good childhood, a caring childhood, where the child felt secure, also builds good and psychologically sound human beings. That's what most people are. But if you have had childhood traumas, it would start showing up in your personality. Just for so now, the early research said, okay, let's try to label personality. They called people, oh, this person is a shy person, aggressive person. The labeling still continues, but we don't use that in personality. So we still call people shy, we call people aggressive, we call people lazy. We do that. We label people, but psychologists have moved away from this into saying that this can't be a personality trait. Laziness is not a personality trait. A person could be lazy, but it could be because of various reasons, but it has nothing to do with the personality of the person. So such things saying that there are aggressive. So that is my problem with personality development programs. Personality development programs supposedly make shy people into confident people and confident communicators. I can assure you it doesn't. Because if you're shy, you can become a good communicator if you try very hard. So you should say, I will become that, not otherwise. Okay, so change of personality, it doesn't happen by provocation, it happens by evocation. This is the common phrase used in personality, that what is provocation? You're a lazy person, you're stupid, you don't know how to talk. That is not going to change personality of people. Evocation is, if I feel within myself a need for change, I can change. So people have changed. My favorite example has been Mark Zuckerberg. Okay, uh, when you have the time, see the video of Mark Zuckerberg's first TV interview. He is sweating, so he comes wearing a suit. Then he removes the jacket because he's sweating. He's not. There's not beads of sweat. There is sweat all over the thing. He removes that. You can see the sweat patches on his shirt. So he's really, really uncomfortable talking to the interviewer. Today he is very confident. He's still the shy person he was. He is not a natural communicator, but can communicate effectively. He's learned that. Now, Bill Clinton is thought to be one of, all of you know Bill Clinton, right? So Bill Clinton is thought to be among the best communicators. Okay, so till Obama came, and Obama is a few notches above him. But anyway, Bill Clinton is a very, very good communicator. So when Bill Clinton actually came to the Democratic Convention and wanted to speak, and he started speaking, he was such a poor communicator that people booed him off the stage. They said, get out. You don't know how to speak. He learned that skill. So you can add these things to your personality, but your core personality remains the same. So, Mr. Narayan Murthy, Mr. Narayan Murthy is still, he communicates today the way he used to communicate 30 years ago. So when all of you have heard Mr. Narayan Murthy speak of Infosys, I mean, if not in person, on TV, on, okay, yeah, so on various things, uh, on Bangalore traffic sometimes, you know, doesn't he feel like he's a maths teacher talking about some maths problem? Even when he's talking about Infosys, or even when he's talking about something, he's got this very professorial air when he talks. That's who he is. He's not trying to change it. He says it works for me, fine. So as long as a personality works for you, it is fine. You don't have to become aggressive. You will become aggressive if it is forced upon you. And personality changes happen when in a corporate, when there are absolutely, there is a lot of pressure on people to change, and when people themselves realize that their personality is coming in the way of growth. Okay, so I used to work for an insurance company, and I used to have, and my colleague, a person who was reporting to me, his name was Rinku. And Rinku was one of the finest human beings I've ever worked. Ever help, always open to help somebody. So anybody has any problem, Rinku was the first person they would go to, because he would always help people. Excellent in his job, and very, very helpful, and very, very nice human being. But what happened is that people also took advantage of that very nice person that he was, and people got their work done, which they should, saying, I have something, can you do it? And Rinku would help them out. What happened is that because of that, Rinku would go home very late, and it worked very fine till he was a bachelor. Then Rinku decided to get married, and that's where the problem started. Because now his wife is saying, why do you come home at 8 o'clock? So he got caught between saying no to people in the office and saying no to his wife. And that was a difficult transition for him to make, because that is not who he was as a person. His personality was being the nice, very helpful person. That's how he was as a human being. But he was caught between this. So he had to change. He had to learn how to say no to people. He had to learn, it went through various iterations. People didn't like the way he was saying no to him. It went through that, but then it settled down. So today he is no longer as helpful as he was, but still a very nice person. So that personality change happened because of family pressures about changing things. Because otherwise he would go home at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, nobody to ask him. So then he, because of family pressures, he had to get home earlier, and also tell people, look, I have other things to do. I can't help you. So these changes happen in your personality, but by and large, it remains the same. Now, so now, while there have been many tests that have been done, there have been many ways to try to understand people. Okay, so this is called a Rorarsh ink blot test. Okay, um, how is it done? I don't know if you did this. You're all much younger than me, but in our times, what we would do is, for entertainment in the class, put a few drops uh, of ink on a sheet of paper and just do that, and it would create an abstract image like this. Okay, so that's why it's called an ink blot test. That's how it was done. Okay, so what do you look at this and tell me, what do you see in this figure? Okay, rabbit. Okay, horses, lion. Okay,
Two tigers.
okay, two tigers. Okay, okay, somebody online. Would you like to add? Okay, now the ink blot test is based on the theory that you don't see what is there, you see based on your personality. So different people have different interpretation of what is it. Now, This requires an absolute trained, highly trained psychologist to interpret this. I don't know if wolf is better or tiger is better. I have no idea. And I think it is wrong on my part to say, yeah, I know how to do it. This requires uh, extensive training before people attempt to do that. So you would find them in places like Nimhans. So to try to understand. So this is another. So obviously not very popular because it is very, very difficult to administer. And so, okay, so this is okay. Now what I want you to do is to look at this and write a story in about a paragraph, about 10 lines, just a story from this picture. People online, why don't you try to?
Yes, sir.
Okay, done. We wait for others to finish and then. Okay, you have 1 more minute to finish your story. Okay, can we start? Does somebody want to read the story and tell me what they've written? Yeah, so anyone? All of you wrote a story. I thought it was for everyone. Yeah, so who wants to tell their story? Yeah, yeah, please, please go ahead. Okay, okay. Yeah, so does somebody have a different take on this? Yeah, okay. So you saw both of them looking very worried. Okay, okay, okay. Yeah, 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 please. Okay, okay, fine. Okay, mm, okay. So all of you came up with different stories. Yeah, yeah, please, please go ahead. Okay. Okay. No, no, I can assure you, even when you get old, you will be very confident. Don't worry. Okay. You have a very confident prime minister who's 70 plus, so don't worry. But yeah, so I'm not, is one story better than the other? No. Yeah, you won't say. Okay. So all of you came up with very, very different stories based on one photo. So where did all these stories come from? It comes from deep within you. So it is not the photo that made the story, it's the person who made the story. And I'm sure if you gave this to people who write for movies, they would come up with far more creative, uh, so a lot of them start off with one idea or one thought and then write a 3 hour movie on that. So uh, what we do is this thematic appreciation, a perception test is used very, very commonly for UPSC exams. So I don't know if any of you have written the UPSC exam, tried to become an IAS officer. Anybody tried to do that? This is used there. This is used in the armed forces where exactly the same thing is done, but more time is given. So there would be about half an hour where you can look at that and write a story, and it is evaluated, and people judge your personality and they say, okay, what it is. Um, so that is what the thematic, this is another way of finding out personality. So why did all these techniques come up? Because it was felt that people may not be very willing to reveal their personality, and therefore you need an indirect method to try to find out what their personality is. So that is why all these were done. So this is another image that we use. So sometimes I use this, sometimes I use that. This is another. Okay, so what happened is that uh, when when you have uh, when you have personality, it's of no use if it is not measured. And if I can't tell somebody, hey, this is your personality, this is your strengths, weaknesses, what's the point of me being able to measure personality? And that is when a lot of tests came up. Now the tests are all grounded in very, very good psychological theory. So it is not that some random test that somebody wrote 10 questions and it came up on the basis of somebody's some theory, and this has been used extensively. So there are two main tests that we are talking about. There are others too. Okay, so in India, the common ones. So if you are a company, the common ones that are used. I don't know if you've heard of a test called DISC, also called Thompson profile. There were two brothers. So one was called Thompson, the other decided not to give his name. The one who was Thompson called the test Thompson profile, the other one called it DISC. And then you have MBTI, and then you have Big Five. You could have a whole host of others. There are just too many of them, all of which talk about very, very specific parts of a personality. All this is based on a feeling that while people are unique, you can group similar individuals into a category, and therefore you can give a label to that category so that it becomes easier for us to tell that you would behave in a particular manner. And sometimes it is beneficial to you, and sometimes it is not very beneficial. So what you'll do is what MBTI did is that it's a pair. They're looking at personality in terms of pair. And the first one is whether it is extroverted or introvert. So, what is your idea? Have you heard of this extroversion, extroverts, introverts? Have you heard that? So, what is your definition of what is extrovert? Okay, 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 perfectly fine. Okay. Okay. Now, I'll tell you what is MBTI's definition, but not very different from yours. But in a company, which do you think is better, extroverts or introverts? Huh? Huh? No, but do you think we should hire more extroverts or introverts? Depends on the job. So if it's a sales job, I would require extroversion. If I have an audit function, I have an architect's position, I would not want somebody to go around cracking jokes. I want somebody to sit down and analyze and to come up with that. Their introversion is virtually a virtue. Okay, now anybody here from accounts, finance? Okay. What do you think will happen if you have accounts people cracking jokes? Somebody goes to them and he said, "Let me tell you a joke." Let me. You will find it very strange. So, uh, what happens is that is where. So, in such functions, introversion is actually a strength. Or do you want, if you go to a doctor, for example, do you want the doctor to listen to you and allow you to talk, or do you want the doctor to talk and say, "Hi, come"? If you go to a doctor and say, "Hi, long time you have not come, 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 come," would you like such doctors? So, what personality is, there is no right or wrong personality, which is what I have a problem with personality development. It assumes that there's a wrong personality. That's not true. It is just that in certain situation you're going to be effective, in certain situation the other person is going to. So the first thing that MBTI does, uh, MBTI is Meyer-Briggs. It's a mother and daughter who came up with this. They're both PhDs in psychology. So are you extroverted or you introverted? The way they define is that given a problem or an issue, do you ask for help immediately or do you try to look within you for solutions? So introvert draws strength from within himself or herself. An extrovert draws strength from network, friends. Is it right or wrong? No. That's how they are. The other one is sensing or intuitive. Sensing people look at data, facts. Intuitive people rely on their gut feeling and take a decision. Okay, so um, again, whether it is right or wrong. Okay, so which do you think is better? Should you look at data? How many of you come from a lot of you work for IT companies, right? Yeah. So do you believe that the data is king, or what about intuition? Yeah. So let me ask you my favorite question. From the looks, I think a lot of you are married. When you married somebody, did you look at data or did you rely on your gut and say, "Hey, this will work out. This person looks fine"? So a lot of your decisions actually are intuitive. When you recruit somebody, it just felt right. Okay, the data is all there, this person's record. But sometimes you also have red flags and you say, "Hey, this person doesn't seem to be nice. I don't know. Something is not very good about this person. If this person makes me uncomfortable." So there is, I'm not saying one is better than the other. I'm only saying that don't disregard the people who rely on gut. There's nothing wrong with them, and you find that so any job that requires split second decision making will have people who rely on gut. So if you are an army general or you're a stockbroker or you're somebody who, so the celebrated case is, do you know this company called Morgan Stanley, finance company? So Morgan Stanley was in tower 2 of the World Trade Center in New York. When Tower 1 was hit, the CEO of Morgan Stanley said, "Evacuate immediately." Was it based on data? No. He said, "Plane is hit." Other people are saying, "Should we wait? Should we look at the situation?" He said, "Evacuate immediately. Nobody is going to go under the order. It has to be done immediately." He saved countless lives because nobody died in Morgan Stanley, because by the time the second building was collapsed, their employees had evacuated. And the other companies, which also had a lot of finance company, people are saying, oh, let's decide. Oh, what is the probability of the plane hitting our building? And in about 10 minutes, damn, one more. So even people, why does Morgan Stanley do it? They are in stock market. They're in bond market. Decisions have to be instantaneous. You look at the charts, you can do all the looking at charts. You have to take a decision. You need to figure out whether it is going up or down. And you need to do this very quickly. And you need to do this with great amount of money. An army general does exactly that. In the war, there is never complete information. You still have to take a decision. In management too, a lot of times you take a decision with. So it is not to say one is better than the other, but similarly, the other thing is thinking or feeling. Are you an analytic person? Are you a person who look at human beings and feelings and connect there? Again, are you a person who just perceives from what they are, or you judge people? So these are the 4 categories, and you have various categories depending on the combination. So you have 4 categories. There are 16 different types of people, and therefore you can do this later because you will, if I did this and each of you will tell me a category, what is the strength, weakness, takes me some time. So we're not going to do this. We're going to do the big 5. Okay, so if you go and open your mobiles, go to the EMBA T1 WhatsApp group. There's a link that I've sent you in the morning. It says some open psychometric tests or something. Just click on that. It will open on a test. It says openpsychometrics.org tests IPIP BFFM. Have you all? Okay, can you just open that? Okay. Now, before you start, this is by an university who administered this. So they use it for their research. Okay, so they will also ask you questions about who you are, the person. If you don't want to do that, they give you an option. So you can, suppose there is an option somewhere which says that I don't want to answer that. You don't have to answer that too. You are okay answering that, please go ahead. They will not ask you anything wrong. So just open that and start taking the test. So if you open that, it says begin assessment. So start that. Now, there are 50 items and you have to rate them on 1 to 5. 1 is if you disagree with the statement, and if you agree. So if you strongly disagree, say give it 1. If you disagree, give it 2. If you're neutral, give it 3. If you agree, give it 4. If you strongly disagree, if you strongly agree, give it 5. Okay, so just say begin assessment. And then so you have that. All you have to do is to do that, and then you there are simple sentences used, so I don't think you should have a problem.
Sir, can you resend that link again, sir? I don't find it in the WhatsApp group.
Okay. if you go to there is some message sent by Ubaid Sheikh. It is just above that. It says Big Five personality test. I'm sending it again. I just send it again. Somebody called Kiran also has sent it. So
Yeah,
you
I
could
got
use.
it, sir. Thank
Got
you.
it? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, come. Just open your mobile phone. Sit down, sir. Relax, and then no problem. Okay. So just open this link that was sent to you in the group, EMBA T1 group. Yeah. If you're comfortable, they will not ask you anything really objectionable. But if you don't want to answer, No, it counts it as 3 because you have not disagreed with the statement.
Because whenever we give survey, if we put neutral, then what is the point in doing survey like that?
No, on that statement, you're saying that, yeah, sometimes I do it. I neither agree or disagree. So if I'm in a mood, I'll do it. I am the life of the party. Yeah, maybe once in a way in some party I do it. So I'm neither agreeing nor disagreeing, but it is not really, I could not. So that is what you're doing. It's the middle path. It's what you're neither agreeing nor disagreeing. But it will be taken into account when you're looking at the score. You got your scores? Yeah? Yeah. Okay. I'm just waiting for everyone to finish so that. Done? Finished? Some people still doing it? People online, are you also doing this?
Done, sir.
Yeah,
Have you
Yes,
finished?
sir. Done, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Done, done.
Yes,
Okay,
done,
fine.
sir.
Done, okay.
Done, sir.
So we'll just give another 2 minutes. I think people are on the verge of finishing. You got? Okay. Okay, if you've all finished, should we start or are some people still doing it?
Finish, sir.
Anybody here still doing the test? Okay, done. Now, the big five. See, I had this nice chat message. Unfortunately, I didn't see it. This person says, I can't, it says US. I don't know who this is, but uh, thematic perception test is a projective technique that can be used to measure unconscious thoughts, feelings, and attitudes. You're absolutely right. A lot of what we do and what we behave is because of unconscious thoughts. So, yes, that is one way of doing it. Um, the test that we are talking about now, Big Five, is something. Okay, thank you, US. I think it's been a very perceptible comment. Uh, what, You are okay. US is you. Okay, okay, okay. Thank you. Then now, the Big Five model is when you actually take a test. So it is a conscious decision, and you react to the various questions, and you get a score. Now, the Big Five is thought to be a rugged, reliable tool. So, if you didn't like the results, then you might do something about it. Okay, so let's look at the Big Five. The Big Five is usually they it is commonly known by the acronym OCEAN. That is usually used to remember that. So the first one is openness to experience. Okay, so how open are you to new things? Are you curious about the new and you want to try out something new, or you would like to continue doing the same thing? Some people like excitement of trying out something new. So how many of you would call yourself adventurous? Okay, okay, some of you do. Okay. Are you always ready to try out new things? Would you try out a new technology or a new process even in your company? Yeah. So there's nothing right or wrong. Okay. You don't want a doctor to try out new things on you. So it doesn't, like I said, there's nothing right or wrong about that. Look at it from the point of view of your job. Okay. So openness to experience is the first one. The other one is this big word that we have, which is conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is about your attention to detail, how meticulous you are as a person. Do you follow things in a systematic way? If your person is, um, if you've got good high scores on that, then I can pick you out if by looking at your cabin. If I come to your cubicle or your work area, I can find out who has high scores on that. So everything, if everything is neat, clean, everything in proper order, their files are all in proper order, it means you have very, very high scores on consciousness. So attention to detail, doing the job right the first time, quality of job, all that comes from this. Okay, so I'll give you an example of this again from Mr. Narayan Murthy. Mr. Narayan Murthy buys books on physics and maths. He likes reading about physics and maths. And his secretary, he wants them, the books kept in his home or in the office. So his secretary, it is her job to arrange these books. So there is a number given to every book, and the books are neatly numbered. So Mr. Narayan Murthy has told her and come up with a protocol on how to number these books. I'm not joking. She can't stick that label anywhere she feels like. Precise dimensions have been given. She's supposed to measure it from the end, from the sides, mark that spot, and ensure that label is at the center of that spot. Why? Because when he puts it in a bookshelf, all the numbers should be in one perfect line. Attention to detail. So people don't become great just like that. So if that is how important the amount of importance he gives to a very insignificant task, then you can imagine how much of care and how much of insistence on good quality he will do for a software program. So people like this are people who take great care in ensuring that we can do that. So consciousness is a very good quality. You will find a lot of that in functions like audit, quality. Anybody with attention to detail, who can pick out small details, who follow process, can come up with a process, all that. Now, E is extroversion, your ability to network and make friends easily. Can you make friends very, very easily? So, can you ensure that now the way extroverts manage is by network and relationships? They will always know somebody. I'm sure in your teams you will have extroverts. These are people you go to when saying, do you know somebody in HR? And they will have a HR friend who they will call and say, hey, do this work. That is the strength of extroverts. Extroverts are people who make relationships, have relationships very, very quickly. The ability to connect with people comes from extroversion. Is it good or bad? It depends on the job. They can also be sometimes wrongly perceived. Okay, so we'll look at the negative parts of that. Emotional stability. Are you prone to panic or are you stable? If there is something doesn't work, if something doesn't work, how do you react? So I'll give you an example of that. One of the teams that I was managing, I had this guy with a brilliant academic record. Brilliant. 10th, he was some state board, a rank holder. He's been a rank holder right through his life. Gold medalist, rank holder, IIT, that type of. But this person could never handle failure because he had never seen failure in his whole life. There would be a textbook, read it, first in class. If he wrote a code and it didn't work, this person would panic because it's an entirely different thing. Didn't know how to handle failure. And at the same time, you had this person who actually came in from a modest engineering college. But this person was a lot more cool about things and actually got a lot more job done because he said, okay, if this fails, I'll try something new. I'll figure out a way how to get this thing to work. This guy would panic and say, oh, where is the go? Why is the error? So emotional stability. Okay, so emotional stability is a very, very important thing. It helps people because you're calm in times of crisis. Okay, so you don't want pilots, for example, to have very low emotional stability. You don't want CEOs to panic. So uh, that is the thing about emotional stability. And what did we leave out? We looked at the consciousness, emotion. Okay, so these are the 5 things that constitute uh, the ocean model of Big Five, which you did. Okay. Now, what happens if these things are taken to a very, very high level, which will show in your scores? If your scores are very, very high, if your scores are almost the same, good. If it is high on one, no problem. That is normal human behavior. So this measures normal human behavior. So it doesn't matter if one score is there. But if your score is abnormally high on openness to experience, your scores are very high on that, then what could be a problem with that? There's no right or wrong. So what happens if your openness to experience is very high? Openness to experience.
Is it high risky sometimes?
Yeah, he could be risky. There's a constant need for excitement. You might get bored doing the same things. So you are always seeking the excitement of a new thing. So you might try out new things unnecessarily. Okay, so that could be one thing. Um, oh, uh, we didn't look at agreeableness. Okay, so we didn't look at agreeableness. So let me talk about what happens when extroversion is carried to an extreme. What happens when extroversion is carried to an extreme? Extremely, this person is a big extrovert. What happens? Negative. overconfident, over friendly, always talking to somebody. When does this person work? Come across as casual, because the person is very quick to joke about. Okay, so those could be the way you person. It is not necessarily these people manage things in a very different way, but sometimes you might. Agreeableness is the ability to work as a team player, to be a agreeable. People with agreeableness skills are team players. They're good listeners. They're very good in ensuring in managing conflict within the team. What happens if this is the scores are very high, that is your dominant personality, then what happens? Too much of agreeableness. People will take advantage, exactly. Because people with very high agreeableness, no, I will not embarrass people because I'm going to tell something which is wrong. People with very high agreeableness, so you have a problem saying no to people. Okay. So you need to learn to say no nicely without hurting feelings. You should learn to do that. Okay. So the the extroverts do that very well. They tell no and they crack a joke, and you're laughing without realizing that person said no, will not do your job, but you went away feeling happy. So they have a skill of doing that. Okay. Huh? Not always. Okay. Okay. Though if you don't, if you can't say no to people, and there are people, see, there is nothing wrong if you say yes, if it doesn't frustrate you. If you're saying, hey, I'm being taken for a ride, why is all the work, that is when it becomes a problem. And that is when you need physical therapy for that. What you need to do is to move this muscle. So whenever somebody is coming up and trying to take advantage, you move this muscle. Or you want something work, go, get out, go do the work yourself. So you need to do that. Please don't go do it and say I taught you. But the fact is that you should learn to say no nicely. That is the crux. Is it a good? See, it is not a cultural thing in India. So it is not something that people are good at. We are not very good in saying no, right? Like we all know that. That when we are having a meeting and there is people from other countries, they push us and we say yes. We know no. We would have decided in meeting no. We will tell them no, but we then go there and say yes, yes, and come back. So culture, because culturally we are not a country that uh, see what happens. Okay, some of you have worked in Germany and places like that. Right? Somebody work for Germany? Okay. In Germany, if they have to tell you no, they'll tell you no. In India, what do we do when we have to say no? Actually, I want to do it, but there's so much of we don't like saying directly no, get out. We don't do that. As human beings, as people, we don't. It is very unlikely that somebody will tell you no directly, right? That is the problem. So agreeableness have a problem. So learn to say no. Uh, the corporate life will change people, so the agreeableness become less agreeable as they go along. Consciousness is when you follow structures, process, rules, you do all that. You're very meticulous, you follow steps in everything that you do. If taken to an extreme, what happens if you take this personality to an extreme? What type of people would you get? Yeah, no, that person is a person. Yeah, so yeah, not only that, have you met people who are too logical, always look at everything, so tend to be quite bored. So, and these people ask questions which make you want to hit them. So I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of a very good friend. We've been friends now for more than 20 years. I have a friend called Asit Jivani, my go-to person when I want some information on economics or I want to understand why something is happening. He's the go-to person. He's got information on his fingertips. He'll reel out boring economic data. If you ask him GDP, he'll tell you GDP by quarter, by year, what was it like. He knows. He knows all this by heart. I don't have to go refer to. but he also tends to become overly logical at times. So I once asked him a vague question, and after a lot of years, I still believe it was a logical question to ask. I asked him, what is the distance between Pune and Mumbai? Easy question. Is it very difficult to answer? Ask his response. Are you talking about road distance or rail distance? Now you know why people hate these people. You're too logical. Just tell me the damn distance. No, no, no. He wants to, but he doesn't. In his head, he doesn't understand. And if you ask Asit about something, Asit is also a little strange when it comes to presentation. Everything he looks at pros and cons. Everything. And when he's uh, presenting that, so he goes to one side. Okay, the advantages of this proposal is 1, 2, 3, 4. The disadvantages are this, because in his mind he's moving. He's got a table, so he physically moves up and down. So you're saying, oh, now it is the disadvantage. Okay, so you can see him and do it. Um, Good human being, nothing actually a nice person, but overtly logical. Now, if your emotional stabilities are very high, good. It means you're calm, you're not given to bouts of anger, anxiety. That is a good score to have. And the last one is, we talked about openness to experience. You might always need an adrenaline rush. Okay, so there is no right or wrong. Can you change your personality? Can you get other elements into your personality? Yes, if you work on it. So you say that, look, I need to also get in openness to experience. I should be willing to try out new things, and I'm going to force myself to try out new things. It's going to happen because you're going to like some things. Okay, so if you went to with a person with very high consciousness to a restaurant, they'll go to the same restaurant, order the same food. So they might want to say, hey, let's try out new things. It will change if you want the change to happen for whatever reason. So otherwise, it will not happen. So you find that a lot of them change because of having children, becoming a father, because you're not going to say no to your children, and you will try out new things, but it is not something you will enjoy. So you can try out new things. You can try out. So those are things that your personality will change if you want it to change. Otherwise, it will not. Okay, so people who were extroverts in my school days remain extroverts even today. They have not changed because that's their base personality. That's how they are. So their ability to get things done remains the same. So that is the big five model. I do hope anything about the results that you found strange, that I didn't think I was that way. No, personality does not change too much with age. It will change if you change your job, if you change your families. So if as when you got married, when you had children, your personality changed. You became a lot more caring because you had a young child. And as a child becomes a teenager and there, your personality remains almost the same. But it will not change with age. Person who was an extrovert when he was a child will remain an extrovert when he's old. So the guy who would to the guy who was I have a relative of mine who cracks jokes. Always when I remember, he's always been a person who cracks jokes. Even now he cracks jokes. He's 80 plus and he still cracks jokes. So he remains an extrovert. So he was not well and he got admitted to the hospital, and the nurse was taking pulse, and she said the pulse is very high. So he said, it is because you're holding my hand. 80 years old. 80 years old. She didn't mind. 80 years old. So, but okay, that would still be there. So that is how they are. It doesn't change. They don't become grumpy. So people who were grouchy, grumbly people when they were kids remain that even when they're old. So it remains the same. So that's a little. But anybody who thought, oh, you know what, I didn't think I was like this. Yes. Those things can help you change. Yes. It can change for the better or the worse. So if you have had a friend who's a very nice person, but now is in a very stressful job, you will find him always irritated. He gets angry very quickly. So it could be for the worst too, or you could also have people becoming calmer. Um, he doesn't know what you're looking at. He doesn't know what type of person you want. So if he tries to answer, trying to figure out what you want, he could get into trouble, and the test will show something very, very different. That has been my experience. Yes, people try to manipulate, and they end up with not very good this one, because what happens is they don't know what you're looking at. How do you be okay? When I use this for assessment for Big Five, we use Big Five for assessment, or use this for assessment. We set up an ideal employee profile, and we say, okay, what should be the scores for an ideal employee? Range. It's about a 15-20 point range. What is the ideal thing? And therefore, where does this person fall? Some things we might accept and some things we will not. So that is how an assessment is done. Now, he doesn't know what is my ideal score, but he says, you know what, manager, I need to be more extroverted. And I say extroverted 5, 5, 5 when I'm not. It will give a wrong thing, and it is not in his favor, because it look like his extroversion scores will be off the charts, and he'll be out of the range, and people will say red flag. This is something we should check out. And if there is a different thing that is coming out in the interview, people might say, we don't know what this person is, let's not take a chance. So yes, there is amount of that, but in 50, see, the advantage of 50 is, why don't we have 10 questions? Because you remember what you have put in the first. In 50, you have forgotten, and there's a time pressure, right? So you don't know what you gave for the 12th question. I'm checking it out in the 48th question if these two match. Otherwise, it cancels each other out. So those things are done. Yeah. So, but then you didn't know what so you said you gave yourself 2 there, but you said 4. Then the test says, okay, it should be at least 3, not either 2. So that is what is done. So a lot of care is taken in that. This, both MBTI and Big Five has been used multiple times all over the world. So no doubt about the ruggedness of that. If you wrongly answer, you will get wrong results, right? If you gave your neighbor's blood sample and you say, give me the report, you'll get a ban. So you're describing a person who's not you. You're describing somebody else. And sometimes you could get up with really, really bizarre results. And you say, so what happens in interviews is also the boss's feedback is taken. So if the boss is thinking something, this person's report is showing something else, the interview is coming something else, then we say, confused person, let's not take this person. We don't know who the real person is. So lots of times when people have given honest answers and they have given that, it is found to be in line with that. Because what is never told to them is, what are the qualities we are looking for in that leader. We don't tell that. We say, you write the test, then we'll tell you. So all that is done after the tests are completed. When we say, what is the basis for doing all this, that is done at the last session. So till then, I will not tell you what is wrong with you. So if people actually give honest answers, their true picture will emerge, and an honest assessment can be done. The purpose of doing all this is to ensure that I understand you. So an honest assessment can be done. So don't take this to a ridiculous height, but you might want to try it out on your spouse. Okay. I gave this test to my wife. Wife is a software professional. Results are what it came through. Yeah, so you're not going to get earth-shattering differences. Okay, um, so don't take this to ridiculous heights, but use this as a means of trying to understand who this person is. How do we manage people? You understand the different needs. Openness to experience. People want freedom, want space, give them that. Extroversion needs some time to build relation. Agreeableness need comfort. So you need to support them and say nothing will happen. Go ahead and do that. People with high consciousness need, you say, you listen to them, they will give you a thing. So they bring in lot of support and lot of systems to the project teams or to other teams. So they're good people. So if your emotional stability, if your stability is high, good enough, you don't have to do anything. If it is not, then you might want to counsel that person. Okay. Now, oh, what are some of the things that have traditionally been thought to be that businesses look for? So what is most important? The most important thing that people have found as personality traits is persistence, is about people not giving up and not giving up very easily, to keep at it. That has always been appreciated in a company. The second thing is attention to detail. Okay. Do you know, if you, uh, do you pay a lot of attention to even the smallest detail? That has been efficiency. Can you get the job done in the least amount of time and effort? Ability to analyze situation in modern world, ability to digest a lot of information, pick out one piece or two pieces of information which are critical and take decisions accordingly. So you have too much of information that is coming in. Can I take the information that is most relevant and do I use it in a company? That is very important. And do you set high standards for yourself, or are you easily satisfied? When you set high standards for yourself, you also set yourself for a lot of stress, but that is a personality trait. So you set yourself very, very high standards. What is less important is strong oral communication makes an impact, definitely makes an impact, but beyond a point is not needed. So teamwork, flexibility, all useful to have, but beyond a point, it doesn't help you. The same thing with the other communication, enthusiasm, listening skills, all help you, all good traits to have. But beyond a point, it doesn't help you in your job. Okay, so after listening, the boss expects you to understand and to take action. Just because I have listening skills, if I have no analytic skills, it doesn't help me. So these are important too. It is not to say that they are not important, but does it always guarantee a high level of success in a corporate life? No. So that's a little about traits at work. Um, we look at, so what happens is that you could have these traits also in the big three, that it's called the dark triad. Machiavelli was a person who believed. So Machiavelli in an organization is a person who plays a lot of organization politics. Do you have people who play a lot of politics, very manipulative people? Do you have them in your teams? Yes, met people who manipulating. That could be one of the things. Or you have this thing called narcissism. Narcissism is from a Greek mythology. It's about a guy called Narcissus, who in Greek mythology is supposed to have fallen in love with himself. So narcissists are people who fall in love with themselves and their ideas and how wonderful human beings they are. And they always want everybody to say their idea is the greatest. Doesn't work in a company. So that is one. Uh, Psychopathy is when you have very little empathy or feeling or concern for somebody else. So if pushed extreme, you could see these sort of traits also there in a company. You could also see this. And now, what are some of the things that could derail you? Not an exhaustive list. Some of the things that if you get overly cautious in your job, you don't want to try out new things because I'm too comfortable with or I am excitable, I get excited for every small thing, or I'm easy paced, I do things at my pace, I don't mix, I don't work well with others, or I'm always poking holes in ideas, saying, okay, this idea is bad. These are some of the things that, or you're too bold, you're colorful is use of what in India are called bad words. So I don't know if you in your company, if it is allowed, bad language is allowed. So, but in some companies it's allowed. So, are you a person who's very colorful? Are you mischievous? You're too dutiful. You want to be saying, boss, you tell me everything, I'll do it. So, if you meet a boss who expects you to work on your own, you will have a problem. So, these are traits. Is this the only list? No. Okay, but just to give you an idea about the personality and what you should have. Okay, fine. Let's take a break. Okay, so it is nearly 11:05, 11:20. We are back. Okay, people online, we are taking a break and we'll be back at 11:20. Okay, so it gives you also time to
Sure, sir.
have a coffee break.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So let's start with the next chapter, which is on motivation. So motivation happens to be one of the most researched subjects in management. Leadership is the biggest research, the one with the maximum research. Leadership motivation is the next most researched topic, because what happened was that when we have moved away from industrial revolution towards an computer led economy, when people are no longer chosen because of how strong they are, now it's all mind work, motivating people has become more important. So trying to get more out of your people, to get them happy, to keep them engaged, that is what every manager tries to do. And therefore this motivation is a very, very important concept in any manager's life. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to look at the three elements of key elements of motivation. We are looking at what are the early theories of motivation. What is the theory telling us? Okay, so it's important we understand the theories of motivation. And then we are looking at some of the other differences and other things. Largely, we are trying to understand. We are also trying to understand what is organization justice. Okay, how does an employee feel that they have got justice in an organization? And what is job engagement? So we'll look at some of the other contemporary theories of. Now, what is motivation? All of you have heard of motivation? Do your managers motivate you? Yes. Yeah, to get the work done. Yes. That's his role or her role. So, what does a manager do to motivate? Your manager doesn't motivate you? No. Okay, negative motivation is very simple in a company. I've had bosses who said, you don't do this, you're fired. That's negative motivation. Not very effective, I can assure you. So, uh, what do managers do to motivate you? Okay, the other managers who motivate, what do they try to do? Appreciate, yes. Oh, they send you to on-site carrot. Okay, they keep saying on-site. You do this, we'll consider you for answer. Okay, hike. Uh, motivation shouldn't be linked to money, in my opinion. Okay, team outing. Okay. Okay, star of the month. Okay, so yeah. So see, we'll talk about various things that motivate people, but I've always I think that people also do get motivated by things like this star employee that he's talking about. Okay, so it is really a very simple thing. Doesn't require too much, but a lot of managers are scared to declare somebody the star employee, saying that I don't want to annoy my other team members, but actually can help. Okay, so what are the three elements of motivation we are talking about? The first one is individual's intensity. Can I get this person to perform at a much higher level? So the intensity of motivation, the more motivated I am, I will put in longer hours, I'll work harder. So intensity of work, direction of work. So I will focus all my attention and energy towards the direction my boss wants me, and persistence. If I'm motivated, I will not give up. I will definitely not give up. I'll continue to do that because I'm highly motivated. So if you have high levels of motivation, you ensure all that. The more perceptible change would be in intensity. So when you have a boss who was very good at motivating, and when you have somebody, a new boss comes in, and this person is not very good, you see a drop in productivity. So this level of motivation was what made the difference. Motivation could be done by money. It can be done through on-site. It could be done through honest praise. That is the most effective thing. Saying, hey, great job on that. That is good enough. It doesn't have to be more than that. A lot of managers don't do that. They think that the way to motivate people is to shout at them. It doesn't ever work. Okay, so now I always find this strange at an airport. A lot of you, I'm sure, have been to an airport. And if you went during holiday season, it's an absolute mess. The airport in the best of times is a mess. The Bangalore airport in holiday season is even worse. And all airlines overbook. So you'll have a very valid ticket, but you reach the airport late, you might not get a seat. That's a common. And the only person who can put you onto that plane is that person who's manning that counter there, or her manager, usually a lady or a manager. So people think that the best way to get that person motivated to give you a seat is to shout at that person. Because if you shout loudly, that person will get so motivated saying, hey, this person is shouting at me early in the morning. I must help this person. And will tell her boss, this person is shouting at me early in the morning. I'm very motivated. Please help that person. How does it work? You're more likely to get that job done by being nice to that person and saying, hey, you know what? I have a family. We're going on a holiday. Can you help us out? More likely to do that than to do that. So uh, when you are in the holiday season, it's easy to, if you're nice to people, yes, and you give them emotional reasons that sometimes they do oblige. So when we were newly married, we were going to Singapore. Holiday season, Singapore Airlines was jam packed. You know, no seat, and we reached the airport slightly late. So we got seats in different rows. Okay, so my wife was some 20 seats ahead of me. So even if I craned my neck, I couldn't see her. So I told the air hostess, say, hey, newly married, we're going to Singapore, do something. So she said, we'll do something after the, the plane takes off. Till then, we can't do anything. Let the plane take off, we'll do something. I said, okay, what can I do? I'm sitting in the plane, I can't do anything. Plane took off. And when the seatbelt sign and all came off, they said, okay, fine. What we'll do is we'll upgrade you. See, they don't want to annoy the other passengers. So they said, you had asked for a seat change. Please come with me. Please bring your bag. And I went and they upgraded me to business class. Okay, so uh, now, so that is what sometimes kind words do. That person didn't have to do that. Also, they lost nothing by doing it. There are two empty seats, they put us there. No, we got upgraded. So upgrades. So it happened because of that. So lots of times I'm not a big fan of shouting at somebody. When your rights are being violated, when somebody is doing something wrong, yes, shouting at somebody, fighting with somebody makes sense. But if you want to motivate somebody to do that, you're much better off putting in a kind word. So I'm not very comfortable with bosses who shout with people, who push people to doing that. I must say that I've also worked with bosses who were very pushy, but they didn't shout at me, but they were very strong and they were very pushy. So I had a boss who told me the first day we met, he said, you know, there are 20 excuses I don't like to hear. You don't even have to tell me the excuse. So he sent me a mail with the numbers. So he said, just tell me the number, I know the excuse. The message was, don't give me excuses, get the job done. I don't want to hear excuses. I had bosses like that. And we had a stormy 6 months where we fought with each other and then we figured each other out. Actually, he gave me a lot of freedom. So his way of motivating was actually giving me freedom, allowing me to do my stuff, supporting me when I needed. So I found him to be a good boss. We worked together for about 4 years, worked out very fine, very well. So you have different bosses motivate you by different ways. Some of them come and give you a kind word. Some of you give them support when you need it. Some of them give you freedom. So depending on what you need, you get motivation. So we talked about that and we looked at Maslow. Um, Abraham Maslow, correct. So, not a new theory. This has been there. A lot of you might have already seen what is Maslow's hierarchy. So, some of you have seen it, Maslow hierarchy of needs. So, why does Maslow continue to be there after many years? It is a nice, neat model, very easy to implement. That is why it has survived. Now, there has been criticism of Maslow, but let's look at what Maslow's hierarchy of needs is. So, he said that human needs can be grouped and you can classify them into these categories. He called the first need physiological needs, which is what you need for survival. Food, water, shelter, all these come in physiological needs. The second need is to look at safety, security. Now, when Maslow started, when he came up with this theory, it was all physical security, that there's not something, there's no danger of something falling on your head or something like that. But these days, psychological safety is of equal importance. So the safety is also psychological. Then, do I feel a sense of belonging to a company, an organization, to a team? The social needs, belongingness. Am I recognized when I do a great job? Esteem needs. And the last need that Maslow said is that when you do things to the level of your potential without bothering about everything, you call this self actualization. Okay, now a lot of people wrongly perceive self actualization to be nirvana or going to Himalayas. Is not that. It really not that. Now, what are physiological needs? Needs that I need for survival. So, how do companies motivate people? They give you a good salary, they ensure you get food. So some companies do, some of your companies give free food. No, some companies do. Okay. um Discounted coupon rate, or they give you Sodexo coupons. They do all that. um Sorry. Okay. Then, okay, we'll give you food and we'll charge you for that, the that. Okay, so it's a more tax efficient thing. Okay, but um why is physiological needs? So Maslow said unless lower level need has been fulfilled, you can't go above that. So the first thing is physiological needs have to be fulfilled, which means that you make enough money to survive. Now if you are getting more than that, good, but at least you need enough to feed you and your family, have a roof over your head, be able to move around. So all the basic needs have to be fulfilled with physiological needs. The next need is security. Do you feel safe? Do you feel that there is no harassment of any kind, no psychological bullying of any kind? Do you feel safe? Do you feel psychologically safe? Okay. Or is there pressure on you? Okay. So safety has become a concern with the rise of social media. And all this fat shaming and name shaming and all that new concept, cancel culture, all these rubbish coming in, that has become more. But companies are getting very, very strict about such things. Also, companies have got very strict with harassment of any kind. I'm sure all your companies have sexual harassment committees. Any harassment, there are committees where anonymously some employee can complain to that and saying, I've been done that. I think that has been a welcome step. Okay, I do know that they may not be perfect, but they at least they offer some level of protection to anybody who's vulnerable. Okay, so that is about the the safety needs. And also, of course, if you're working for an IT company, they would have taken into account safety. So safety is a big concern. They would have ensured the entire your premises is a place where you don't slip and fall, or there is nothing falling over your head. Okay, so I come on this road to Silk Board and then come here, and there is metro work going on, and there are big boards which says, look up, there could be something falling on your head. Those are unsafe work environments. Obviously, I'm sure none of you work in such environments. Companies take great pains to ensure safety of its employees, security of an employee, security of ID. They do all that. The third one is that, do I feel a sense of belonging to the team and to the company? Now, HR calls this employee engagement. So if uh, some of you are from HR, right? Okay, both of you from HR. So do you do, is there a mandate to engage with employees that you serve? Okay, so recruitment doesn't have a engagement. Okay, but otherwise there will be things like you should go and talk to the team. Okay, because they want to come and talk to you, and they want to talk to you about how are you happy, what are some of the things that are good and bad, and do all that, because they want to ensure that people feel that they are part of the team. When you're part of a team, when you feel that the team is important and I'm part of that, you will have employees staying longer. Okay, so if an employee is not made to feel welcome in a team, that employee will not stay long. Okay, so how do we make an employee feel not welcome? Okay, but how do we discriminate? We don't discriminate saying I'll not give you something. We'll not do that. But what are the subtle ways in which people are made to feel not be feel? Okay, talk very less, ignore them. Okay, junk work, nobody wants work, give it to them. Uh, not see, not okay, that is okay. Then the person say you never told me. But more importantly, uh, get-togethers, uh, informal get-togethers, like you're all meeting for tea or you're having a meal after that, and you say, hey, you're a newbie, don't come. So it's now it is not a very nice thing to do, because then that person does not feel a part of that, will not contribute too much. And remember that we have moved away from individual brilliance to team efforts. So if that person is not contributing, then the team suffers. So these days, people take a lot of care to ensure that um, people are made feel welcome in a team. So what happened is that my wife works for a software industry. So when she was new, when she was a team member, still individual contributor, so the client said, okay, you've all done a great job, and told them go have a party. Okay, that was paid by the client. So uh, my wife was part of a team which had 20 members. Okay, there were two women and there were 20 members. 18 of them wanted to go to a pub. But my wife says, I don't drink. What will I do then? And it's too noisy, so I don't want to come. But 18 people wanted to go to a club. So what should the boss have done? 18 people wanted. So what would you do if you're a boss? 18 people say, no, we want to go to a pub. Somehow they convince the other two, ignore the other two, go to a pub and say, hey, you didn't come, too bad. But the boss, who was a little enlightened person, said that is wrong. We can't leave two people out. Told the other 18, you can't leave two people out. So you find a place that they feel comfortable. You want beer? I'll get you beer. But let's go to a place where all 20 can come. So it is, it's been many years this happened. My wife still remembers this. She's told me this many times. I still remember this. Why? Because one boss said, I'm going to make every member of my team feel a part of the team. So this could look very silly. This could look very simple. But this is how you ensure people feel a sense of belonging to a team. Uh, does some of your teams have, do you give yourself teams names? Team names? Is there a, other than whatever, project team or something, do you also give yourself a team name? Okay, zonal team. Or do you give yourself names like achievers, challengers, or whatever? That is another way of feeling a team, belonging to a team. Okay, so you have always have this feeling that, look, I'm part of achievers, and everyone who talks to you will call you whatever, achievers, challengers, champions, whatever. So that is what a team does. That is what a sense of belonging is. Now, esteem is any award that you give to people. Okay, so uh, remember that awards are very, very important to people. When you give a certificate to somebody or you give a plaque, do what does your company give you? They give you certificates. Do they give you medals, plaque, gift voucher? No certificate or anything. Okay, certificate and a gift voucher. Okay. Okay, so there'll be some on your desk. Okay, so that is what 5-year completion. They'll give you a watch. The most unimaginative gift that HR can think of. Oh, 5-year completed. Oh, what all can we give him? Let's give him a watch. Oh, what happens after this person completes 10 years? Oh, we have to give him a gift. Let's give him one more watch. Okay, wallet is even worse. Oh, I mean, which one? They'll give you. Oh, that's all. Okay. Oh, the plaque is important. Okay, so I was working for a company, and when the company completed 10 years, all the original employees who were there, my company's headquarters was Delhi then. All the employees of the company who stayed in the company for 10 years, who were there in the early lot, who survived and stayed in the company for 10 years, they, along with their wives, were flown to Delhi for a dinner with the chairman. The chairman, in his speech, thanked all of them for staying in the company. They got nothing. They got nothing other than a trip to Delhi. But they came up charged, saying that because the chairman thanked all of them, spoke to each one of them. So it's what chairmans do. But this is what this person's remembered. They went around telling people that it's a great company. The company cares of its employees. So the more that people do something for making people be I was working for Xerox, that's a company which did that. They have a great tradition for doing such things, so of feeling a part of the need. Uh, if February, March is a tough time, where we have to meet the yearly targets. Everybody is running like crazy. So what Xerox does is that on usually the year ends at about 5th or 6th of April, because sometimes it gets extended. But the day the year ends, the next day, the wife or the mother gets a letter and a box of sweets from the company saying that your son or daughter has contributed to that. Unfortunately, the last 2 months was very tough, and I'm sure they were not there for that. You have supported your son or daughter or your husband or wife. So from our side, box of sweets. So it's a very simple gift. It is doesn't cost too much. How much does about 500 per employee? They ensure it is courier to each one of them. The first time it happened, my mother said, "There's a box of sweets for you, but it's come in my name." So I said, "Is there a letter with that?" I didn't know that. She said, "Read the letter." Then in the letter, it said that it was to my mother, and it said that this is what it is. So companies need to become creative. That is my humble submission to all the HR managers, team leaders, project managers. This mug and jacket has gone on for too long. Hi, welcome to the company. Mug, one jacket. Yeah, it's gone on too real. You need to think of something that is creative. Hmm. Okay. 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 Good. It's good. It's good. So uh, joining is one way of doing it. Definitely important. You can do that right through the year. Okay. So when I was a branch manager, then a regional manager, zonal manager, I would love to have this award ceremonies. So what I would do is, uh, get certificates printed. How much does a certificate? Not even cost you 100 rupees. And give out certificates. So whenever some big boss came to my branch, I would tell them, you know what, you need to take half an hour and give out certificates. They love doing it because of photos, happy employees. So why would they not do it? Yeah, sure. And I would give out about 10 certificates. Whatever I felt like, most improved salesperson of the year award, maximum contribution, team player of the year award, give out. So what happens is that they all feel like, okay, we are recognized for something. So, and the company spends nothing for this. So, social needs, esteem needs are very important for you to actually do. When you reach a stage when none of this matters and you are only doing things because you love that job, you're at the stage of self actualization. Okay, so when it doesn't matter if you will reach that stage maybe at a certain time. So, uh, when you find somebody really enjoying doing the job, not wanting to do any other job, but doing it for the pleasure of doing it, that is exactly when you're in the state of self actualization. They do it for no money, they do it for no recognition, they do it because they just love doing it. And they can do that for any amount of time. Yeah, the passion is so high that you can do it for any way. You don't pay them fine. So the people who go and teach in government schools because they like doing it. So they sacrifice the Saturday, Sunday in teaching students some maths or something else. So anybody who does such things is doing it because of self-actualization. That is what it is. Where money recognition does not matter. What matters is that I enjoy doing this. Let me keep doing this. That is what Maslow said. Like I said, this is very easy to actually adapt. So what Maslow said, if physiological needs are not met, don't try to go to security needs. If security needs are not met, don't try to look at social needs. And if social needs are not met, don't look at esteem needs. That's what Maslow said. Now you can disagree with that. There have been instances of that. By and large, it follows this. By and large, the same theory works good. So this is about Maslow. So now let's look at the other one. Now the other one is by a gentleman called Hertzberg. And Hertzberg came up with a two-factor theory of motivation. So he went around asking people in your company, what are those things that demotivate you? So they told him laundry list. Then they said, okay, what are the things that motivate you? And he thought that the opposite of that will be in the other list. But what he found was that people came up with two extremely different lists. One things that demotivate them, one thing that motivates them. And therefore he came up with this theory called the hygiene theory. What does the hygiene theory say? The hygiene theory says that things that demotivate people because they are not there are not the same things that motivate people when they are there. So he called these two factors hygiene factors and motivators. What are hygiene factors? If it is not there, demotivates people. When it is there, there may be low levels of motivation. It doesn't motivate people. Motivators, if it is not there, will demotivate to some extent. When it is there, it really motivates people. Okay, so that is what he said is the difference. So if he said, as managers, you focus on the motivators rather than the hygiene factors, because even if you keep increasing hygiene factors, motivation level will not go beyond a point. But if you increase the motivators, hygiene factors, the why does he call the hygiene factor? Why did he call it the hygiene factors? Because he said that lack of hygiene causes disease. Too much of hygiene doesn't cause fitness. It is so that is why he called it a hygiene factor. That is one theory that is there. That so therefore, where do you think salary comes in. Motivators, motivators. Actually, it's a hygiene factor because after that, it doesn't really, it is nice to say that I've got a great package and you go and the company, the work is bad, people are treating you badly, and you say, why did I accept that? So that is, while it is true, but if the work is interesting, you might be willing to do it even if the pay is not, to some extent, you need to have a pay. You need to have a fair pay for that. Yeah, to meet a needs, to meet what I think is a fair salary. Whether it is justified or not, I feel that this is the salary I deserve for the work I do. As long as you're paid that, if the work is interesting, you will be very motivated to do so. Okay, so salary levels have not always motivated a lot of people. The military is one example of that. They've always found people, irrespective of the fact that they're never the best paymaster. Nobody joins the army because you're getting a good salary. Do they get a good salary? Yes. Do they have a lot of perks? Yes. But that's not the reason people join. People join for a higher purpose. So uh, that is about uh, Hertzberg and his motivation. And then there is a McClellan theory of needs. McClellan said that there are three needs that every human being has. There's a need for achievement. I want to really do well, be the top. There's a need for power. I need to control people, tell them what to do things. And there's a need for affiliation. I feel be part of a group. I need to be part of, to make friends, to feel part of that. That is affiliation. Now, each of them are present in all human beings, but one of them is going to be more than the others. So you could have the need for achievement to be very high. You always want to win, and you're willing to sacrifice power and affiliation to do that. I'll win even if my friends don't like me, or I could be somebody who, for me, relationships are the most important things. That is what. And the third person is, I want power. I want to control things. I want to control people. That is my need. So each of these needs, depending on who the person is, if I'm getting it, I'm able to meet the need. I will be motivated. Okay, so then came Bandura. Okay, this is self-efficacy theory was by a gentleman called Bandura. And what did he say? That he says if people have to be motivated, and he was basically talking about a job setting like a company, you need four things. And he called them enactive mastery, vicarious persuasion, vicarious modeling, verbal persuasion, and arousal. So four things. What does he mean by that? So if I have to be motivated, he said I must have mastery over the job that I'm doing, which means that I should have the knowledge and skills required to do that. Simple. If I don't know how to do a job, will I be very motivated enough to do it? If I say all of you can do brain surgery tomorrow, would you be say you say yeah, I want to cut it open? No, you're not. You don't know how to do it. So you need to be good at what you're doing, or you might think that you can acquire the skills. When you acquire the skills, you will be motivated to do your job. So enactive mastery is when I am going to be, I need to have mastery over the knowledge and skill required to do it. If I want to be the motivated lawyer, then I need to know about law. I should be able to argue in a court of law. I should be able to write a legal brief. I should be able to do all that. So that is what motivates people. The second one is vicarious modeling. Vicarious means I can see it. I can see somebody else doing the job. If I can see somebody else doing the job well, then I'll learn from it. So not only do I have, uh, if I have something that I can do very well. That is the first thing. The second is, do I see others being able to do the job well? And can I learn from others? So vicarious model. Verbal persuasion is, do I have somebody coming and motivating me saying, hey, you can do it. Let's do it. Could be a team member, could be an outside person, could be a boss. But am I getting verbal persuasion about doing that? And the last one, arousal, is about the level of energy. Do I therefore have a great level of energy and I feel greatly motivated to do a job? So these are the four elements Bandura said will ensure that somebody is. So what happened was that he was the first person to say that training, demonstration motivates people. So doing any of that helps people become better in the job and therefore will get motivated to do the job. That is what is Bandura's theory of motivation. Okay, so this now therefore we look at what is called a Pygmalion effect. A Pygmalion effect is somebody convincing you to do something that you never thought you could be doing. So can you convince? So Pygmalion, according to the Greek mythology, was a beautiful statue, and the king, who was very lonely, kept praying that, why don't you come to life? And he kept praying. You know, Greek mythology is all like Hindi movies, so you don't ask me how it happened. So the story goes that the statue came to life and became his wife. Okay. Um, why did they do that? Why did the king do it at that day? Because there was no Tinder and Shadi.com in those days. So he had to do all this. Now we have better tools. Okay. So we don't have to worry. So, but in Pygmalion effect is that you persuade people to go beyond what they have achieved. Can I therefore push you to do much more? Can I persuade you to do much more? Motivate you to do much more? And you will find that you are testing the boundaries of what you can do, and you find yourself doing much more, and you're surprised yourself saying, I didn't know I can do. So the Pygmalion effect in the corporate world happens when a boss can convince people to do something. So you know, the boss might convince you to take a new role, might ask you to take a new initiative, might ask you to learn new skills, and therefore persuade you. And you never thought, yeah, I never thought I could do that. I never thought I could lead a team, or I never thought I could implement change, or I couldn't do that. All that happens because of the Pygmalion effect. So whenever you find people being pushed to do much better, you have the Pygmalion effect. Okay, so do you see that in your company? Do people tell you to do much more? So one is when they tell you, because I'm a boss, you should do much more and give you a general thing. But do they sit with you and say, hey, you know, this is where you have, but I think you have the potential to do much more. Why are you doing at this level? That's when you use the Pygmalion effect. Okay, so yeah, they'll also give you a broad plan and say whether does it make sense, or they'll ask you, is there a way you can do it? And then can we look at much better? Okay, so yeah. No, but sometimes the goals are just some dreams of the boss, not that way. If you don't accept them, then it is of no use. Saying, yeah, boss, yeah, okay, boss, yeah, you're a great boss, and then I'll say, I'll do what I want. Then the Pygmalion, it works only if you accept that. But if it has been properly done, you can see production levels or productivity levels that you have not seen. Now, why does it happen? Because people believe in that it can be done. And when you believe that it can be done, you have it can be done. Okay, so that can it be done? Of course, it can be done. So if you have new people, sometimes they play this role by disrupting all of us, by showing performance we never thought was possible, because a new person didn't know it can't be done. So we said, how can it be done? And the person came and showed, and then The entire team said, hey, it can be done, and all of you suddenly pulled up your socks and ensured that the performance was met. Again, another form of Pygmalion effect. You can see Pygmalion effect in sports when you're seeing athletics and you see improvements of people. It's because they push themselves to do. Now, uh, now the okay, so we're not doing all these theories. Okay, there's an expectancy theory which is simple. It says that my effort, is it producing what are the results? My effort. And if I am performing that way, is the organization rewarding me for whatever it is, and therefore I'm meeting my personal goals. Very simple theory. What it says is that I'm working hard. Is the organization giving me a good salary? Are they giving me rewards? If they do that, then I will meet whatever the organization wants me to meet. And in the process, I'll also meet my personal. Oh, you had this in HRM course? Okay. It's the same thing. So let's look at what is equity, and then what happens because of equity. Equity is, do I feel I am getting rewarded in relation to somebody else? That is equity. For my efforts, am I earning enough? Am I getting more? Am I getting less than the person who's performing at the same level? That is what equity is about. Now, the equity is seen it is seen during times of appraisal. All of you go through appraisal, right? And do you get hikes because of the appraisal, bonuses, hikes because of the appraisal? After that, is there a lot of discussion? No, before that with the boss. After that, among yourselves, saying, how much did you get? How much did I get? I know HR people believe that it doesn't happen. This is what happened. That day, nothing work doesn't get done. They're all sitting together and saying, how much did you get? How much did the other person get? How much did the other team get? They're trying to figure out, did I get as much as my work was, or whatever I have achieved, the goals that was set to me, the achievement for that, did I get the reward that? If I feel that I have got less reward than what I deserve, I will be demotivated. If I got what I deserve, then there's equity. And if I'm being getting more, then I'll feel I'm being over rewarded. So I will be happy, but I also know that I didn't deserve as much as I got. Okay, it was not such a great performance. Now, the strange thing happens in appraisal is that the team decides whether somebody getting a hike was justified or not. The team decides. Okay, so what happened was that I was managing a sales team, and we had 6 salespeople. I was managing a team of 6. Now, one person's performance was head and shoulders above the other 5. That person was a national number 2, clearly extraordinary performance, no doubt. There was another person whose performance was about 20% higher than the other 2. So I had recommended that person who was at national number 2 for promotion. So, and it was an open and shut case. There was no reason or nobody who could stop that promotion. It was at that level. Then my boss called me and said, hey, you know what? I think I can push one more person. And should I push this other person whose performance is about 20% more than the others? So I said, do it. If my team member is getting promoted, I'm not going to say no. I said, do it. So he got promoted too. The first guy getting promoted, the team had no problem because his performance was very good. They all agreed. The second guy, they said, this is temporary. In the past, he had not. In the past, I had performed. His performance is about the same level. And they didn't really like that. Equity. They said, why did he get promoted when his performance was in line with what I had? it was true that there were a lot of people who had performed better than other branches. I couldn't push all of them for promotion. I promoted the highest among them. But they thought that the performance was not so good, not so high to have deserved the promotion. So they gave both of us, there were a lot of snide remarks made to both of us uh, about him getting promoted. So, after about 3 months, I had to clamp it down and say, stop doing this. They would call him my ladla. They would say, your eyes have turned blue. And, it was all jokes. It was not comment. It was not fight. It was all jokes and done during informal interactions. But the message to both of us is we are not happy. So when you promote somebody and the team does not feel that this person deserved a promotion, and that promotion, if he can get promoted, even I could have got promoted, you have this feeling of injustice that I didn't get what I have. That is when this equity problem comes in. Okay, so what happens when you perceive equity? The positive thing could be I might work harder, or I might say that I'm not going to get what I deserve, so it doesn't matter. Or I can become more efficient and say that I will produce more with the same level of effort because I will change the outcome. Or I will start playing the victim card and say, I do so much, nobody loves me, nobody promotes me. I have a wrong idea I build a wrong picture about myself, or I build a long picture about that person who got promoted. I say that person, he's only saying good things to the boss. Boss likes him. Boss likes him for wrong reasons, and that's why that person got promoted. I come up with such theories. Or I say that, is there a different person I can go to and ask that person about my performance? So that I have a third party view who does not know me, does not know that. The last one is I leave the field, which is a wrong thing because both the company and you stand to lose. But it could happen if I felt it was unjust. Okay, so yeah, it needs to be carefully thought about. Okay, so okay, wrong thing. I know. So all of you. So finally, he said I didn't get it. Okay, but okay, I'll not say whether it's right or wrong. I know it happens. But finally, all of you lost because finally the project suffered and they said he pointed at you, you pointed at him, somebody pointed at a third person, and they're all pointing fingers at each other. Okay, so what is it that is uh, the organization level of justice? Okay, so what is organization justice? It has three components. The first one is that the way pay, promotion, perks, rewards are distributed, it is a fair method that is there. So there's a method, there is fairness in the distribution of rewards. Now, rewards could be anything. Okay, so uh, it could be a promotion, it could be a letter of appreciation, whatever it may be. Is it being given fairly? I am getting what I deserve, or the other person who's getting also deserves what they're getting. Then there is something called distributive justice. The justice is being distributed fairly among all the employees. Or the other one is that suppose I feel there was I didn't get justice. Is there a procedure where I can represent and say, hey, I'm unhappy? And would people listen to me? Which is the third point, which is interactional justice. So in procedural justice and interactional justice, I'm more concerned about if there is injustice, if I perceive an injustice, is there a method in which I can tell the company, I think I got a raw deal? Will the person who's listening to me give me a fair hearing? He may not do anything, but did I get a fair hearing? That is what is the point that they're. So this is very important. I'll give you an example. My father worked for a public sector. So we grew up in a colony. My father worked for BHEL, and there was a huge factory. We stayed in the colony. All the employees would stay in the colony, and they were all work for BHEL. Now, my friend's sister, she did her MBA and joined the same unit as her father as a HR officer. HR officer is the junior most person in that entire. And the factory, I don't know, any of you work in a manufacturing concern? Okay. So you know that factories are huge. Factories are really huge. So she was sitting during lunchtime. She was sitting and she was having her lunch. And one of the responsibilities of the HR department was to manage the canteen. That was the owners were the HR department. And the union had a problem with the quality of food being served there. So about 10 union goons came to the HR department. And there was nobody except this girl. First day in the job. Does not know anything that is happening there. First day, what do you expect? New to the job, new to the career, no idea about that. So this union people barged in and there was nobody else. So they came to her and they were very angry and they banged plates of food on her table and said that this food is very bad. It is not fit for human consumption. They were very angry about it. So she didn't know what to do. So she said, sit down. We'll talk about it. Sit down. So they sat down. So he said, now you tell me what the problem is. I don't know the problem. So you tell me what. So they kept telling this is the problem, that is the problem. We don't get food on time. The food is not there. This is not there. And she kept writing it down. And the only time she talked was when she wanted a clarification. Is this what you mean, or I don't understand this? So she filled in all the points. And what happened is that after fighting for half an hour, even they got tired. And see, we all grew up in a colony. We knew each other. We knew the union leaders' children. So we grew up together. So somebody said, I know your father and me joined on the same day. Other said, oh, you're that person's daughter. So the conversation from this confrontation turned to a friendly thing. And in some of the factories, they have a very strict siren system. So when the siren goes off, you have 5 minutes to get back to work. You can't leave your. So the siren went off. So they had to get back to work. Even though you're union, you get back to work. So they all got up. So she said, what do I do with this problem? The problems you have told me. Now, what is the next step? Should we have a joint meeting? What is the next step? What do you? So the union leader laughed. He said, these problems have been there before you came and will remain after you leave. It is not something, but you listen to us, which is why this entire problem didn't escalate today. Interaction justice. The fact that you just listened to my problem, you just noted it down. Junior most person in that organization, nothing could be done, no power. But she listened to that person and she could diffuse a very angry confrontationalist position that people were taking. She was able to diffuse that because so her boss broke out into sweat when he heard the story and he said, what did that fellow say? He said, nothing. I listened to him and wrote it down. So if people believe that you're being honest, you are listening to their problem, you're trying to solve it, you will find that they're going to be happy. Lots of times they don't get this. The company says, you have a problem, write to the website. No human interaction. That is not always there. So if you have somebody talking to these people, you can have a much better situation. You could have a much better position, more motivated employees. So a lot of them have committees where you can go and talk to people and say, I have got a raw deal. 90% of the time, nothing can be done. But maybe the fact that you have listened to that person, gave that person, so that person they're going to be very happy with that. Now, in one of the large TV networks, my last story, and then we close. In one of the large TV stations in the US, there used to be a person who headed news. TV news in the US is thought to be a stressful job. And this person was the head of news for about 10 years. Very powerful job. But then the TV said, it's time to change and this fellow has got old. We need to move this person. So they moved him to an inconsequential job, hoping that he will resign. But the job market was very down. This person didn't get a job, so he didn't resign. So they gave him a designation. They called him vice president or something, and then didn't know what to do with this person because he didn't leave. So they said, okay, this person is going to listen to employee complaints. Because this person has been their senior person, and now they've got a job. So they said, okay, everybody has complained, and the news organization, like in India, is very stressful. People have complaints. So this person will listen to complaints. Now this person had no job. So whoever came, he listened to the complaints. And people went away happy, saying, my complaint, at least some very senior person listened, and he asked a lot of questions. After 2 months, this person has been a senior manager. He went to HR and he said, you need to change all this. They said, no, that's not your job, this, that. But he said that this is the complaints I have received. This is genuine. You have to change it. And this is my plan. I said, what are you talking? They thought this is going to be general job for 6 months and this fellow is going to leave. Now this fellow is saying, make changes. Then with great reluctance, HR and business and all, they said, okay, what do you have to say? And found this fellow actually had some solid data. And he was actually listening to people, and people had actually told him things that they never knew about. And things started changing. So his job was to listen to people, talk to people. So this is where people went saying that, you know what, I think my productivity is low, my people are unhappy. Can you talk to them? And he would talk to them. And he would find out and go back and say, hey, you know what, this is the problem. I think you need to fix this. So what happened is that this person who had no job, suddenly this became a very, very important part of the job. So important that when he decided to actually leave, they paid him more salary and say, remain in this job. Now we can't do without you. So when you have a person who actually listens, and listen is not, oh, they don't make stupid statement. Oh, you have a problem. Oh, you always have problems. Everybody has problems. What can I do? Weather is like that. That's also a problem. What can I? Hey, you're supposed to listen to the problem, but you have somebody listening to your problem. Even if that problem is not sorted out, that person feels I have got justice. So distributive justice is one part. In reality, you cannot have a fair distribution of rewards because the perception of an employee and his performance is a little different from what the boss thinks, and that is usually the problem. But the other two, procedural and interactional, that is when you have a role to play. So how is your appraisal handed to you? The boss says, okay. Okay, the good one is to have a one-to-one interaction and to say this is what is there, so that if there is any complaints, you handle it right away. But we all handle it the same way. So what happens if you say, no, boss, but I wanted to get promoted? What does the boss say? Boss worldwide say the same thing. Huh? Next time. And HR didn't allow. HR, sir, I had recommended. I said you should become promoted. He'll tell that to all the employees. He cannot, the HR. But HR said, no. I'll definitely next time. Yeah, but the fact is that you also know it's fiction, but the fact is that you know that he's trying. You also know how good your performance is. So yes, yeah, if you really deserved it and didn't get it, then it's room for problems, and then the organization needs to do something. But otherwise, we also say that HR. If HR had let me, everybody would be promoted, and it is not the HR. The boss would have given the recommendation. But anyway, so distributive justice, more than distribution, it is a procedural and interactional part of that. If HR is reduced to a website, all of you know a company called Cognizant. Cognizant has a HR robo. The worst idea that you can think of. I hate my boss. What will the robo say? Go back to work. Stop being stupid. Something like that. But the idea is that any HR queries that can be handled would be, you would have a quasi human being handling it. So you say, what is a leave policy? It will come and tell you, oh, this is a leave policy. Or can I do this? So some limited interaction. But this is what a leader needs to do. A leader needs to face up and say, yes, this has been a fair appraisal. I think that this is what your performance deserved, because relative to XYZ, 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 your performance has not been as good. I will help you ensure that it becomes better next year if you work with me. I'm willing to support you. So that is a better way of doing it, instead of blaming HR and to say that you're actually the best person, but HR, there was some limitation, or this time no budget. So, or this time recession, so we couldn't promote people. So the problem in market, global markets. Just look at global man. Look at what China is doing. How? Okay, China is. What can we do? Global recession. Global recession. Okay, no, that's really not a whatever one person has written. No, because I used to have, I was on the other side too. I used to have managers who's on every parameter, every employee in their team got 5. We had a 1 to 5 scale. 5 was the highest. 5 for every parameter. So the way you teach the manager is, I told her that I'm going to give you 1 on all the parameters for sending me this, because you have not done your job. So she said, no, no, no. So I said, how can everybody get 5 for everything? Use your brains and use data. You should be able to justify. So yeah, I know managers. It is strange that managers take appraisal very easily or very casually, when actually it's very important for the employee. You motivate because they think Kalpes. So why should I stretch? Yeah. No, but then I have whatever. Every company gives the team budget. So when you have a budget, now how do you divide is what is the manager's skill? Do you divide equally and bring in socialism, or should the top performer get more? Now, even if it is slightly more, there should be some difference between the top performer. Otherwise, that person will get demotivated, will feel so. So that is the reason why some amount is given. There was a gentleman called Jack Welch. I don't know if you've heard of Jack Welch. Jack Welch was the CEO of GE, and he said that 2 things: the top 10% in the company will get disproportional share of rewards, and the bottom 10 will be asked to leave. That was his business model. Every year, bottom 10, top 10, oh, here, money, 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 promotion, bonus, everything. So he said the other 70% that is remaining will get various level of reward, but these 10% are going to get disproportionately higher reward than the other people. That was his business model. Okay, so it did bring a lot of problems, which problems in GE have continued, but that is about the way to get ensure distributive justice. Okay, so it happens, but I am not a great fan of socialism saying let's distribute budget equally among the employees. No, you distribute it according to performance. And I can assure you, your team will push you hard, but they are fair. They say, okay, I know that the other person has done better. They keep close tabs on how each of them are performing. So they know. It is not that they are in the silos and say, I don't know how the other person is performing. They know. And they know who has performed and who has not. So as long as it's lined with that, they have no problem. They'll come and crib and say, oh, I should have been promoted, but they will not crib beyond that. I used to have a guy who was an average performer. He knew he was an average performer, but on the day of appraisal, no matter what his appraisal was, he would take off for the rest of the day, not come the next day also. Then he would sulk and not talk to me for another 2 days, but then get back to normal. I knew that. Okay, 4 days, let's give him, then we'll be back to normal. So, because he, at the heart of heart, he knew that performance was not good enough. So that is about justice. So let's break, and I'll see you 2 weeks from now. I think the first assignment is due. So if you have, so please ensure it is done. Second assignment is also you're sending it you're sending it to an email, right? We go by your submission on this one on LMS. If that video is not available, then we'll ask you if you have not submitted the video. But otherwise, if you have submitted on LMS and the date and time is set, that will be taken for the purpose of that. What it means is that in LMS, I can give you get a date and time. You get a timestamp. So that is what we are going to take into account. But if you have not sent the videos, please send the videos. Or if you're unable to send it for whatever reason, please inform us.
So we can send the link, right? From a share drive or something. Share the.
No, it's an email ID.
Yeah,
Okay,
email
so,
ID. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
so
it's.
if there are people who we are seeing the Word document on LMS, but we are not able to locate their video, we'll get back to those.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Done.
Sir,
Because
I think for video,
And if
email.
you
send it through.
send your video after that, then it will be considered a late submission.
Yeah. Because 10 minutes video, it's little difficult to be transferred.
Right now, no.
Yeah.
Right now, no. That assignment is closed, so it's too late to do all that. So right now, it will just be the way we have done it, where you will send your video and you will upload it on LMS. The Word document will be uploaded.
Sir, the deadline is tomorrow morning, no? Tomorrow morning, 9:35.
Yeah. Yeah. So send the video today.
Okay, video is today and the Word document is by tomorrow?
No. Everything today.
No, but the
everything
LMS,
today.
No, sir. The Moodle says.
No, okay. Now, there is. I'll just 1 minute. I'll 1 minute. If your video, both of them have to be received by the due date. Video and your Word document. Okay. Now, if you have not been able to, and you have informed us, and then you've sent it at a later date, it will still be considered as the same day submission. You have not sent the video at all and you send it at a later date. There's a rubric that has been shared with you, right? Late submissions. So it is still
Yes,
better
sir.
that you send the video. You will lose a few marks, but you will still get substantial marks needed for the assignment. So even if you have not sent it, please do it immediately. If it is delayed by 2-3 days, still don't stop yourself from sending the video and uploading the Word document on LMS. Yeah, you were saying
some time ago, I had a chat with Arvind sir. Okay. And even the LMS says that Sunday, 7th August, 9:25 a.m.
So whatever the LMS says, when you upload it on LMS, it will tell us whether it has been, what is the time and whether it is as per what has been agreed or not.
Yes, sir. But the deadline says tomorrow. I think.
My
understanding is that
deadline tomorrow told to you 1 month ago.
Yes, sir. Correct, sir. Correct.
Yeah. So no surprises. Yeah. She had a question. I'll come back to you. Yeah. It is fine if I'm able to open it. Fine. Others will get back to you. Okay. So Please don't come up with some funny formats, and that's where we always have a problem. Okay, yeah, you were saying, sir. Which one? The okay, the second assignment. Yeah, so group it's a group assignment, and it is a group understands a case. There are two cases given, and you will make a PPT of that. There will be dates and time given to the group. The group will have to present that. No, it will be online. It will be online. It could happen on a weekday too, because we have a very short window in which we have to see everybody's. But we would listen through all the presentations. So every group will have to present. All team members need to be present for the presentation, and we would want a discussion of that. So please take time to read the case, understand the case, discuss it, and all of you will need to present. Assignment 2. Yeah, online present. Team has to be present. You don't say, okay, one person, you go present. Okay, so we would want all team members, and we don't want one person to present. We want the team to present. No funny video. So there is a case study. So you need to decide who's going to present what. What? Yes. No video. Presentation. Zoom presentation. Zoom presentation. You will come to Zoom. You will share your PPT and you will present it. It is a second assignment, is a group assignment. First one, you upload the Word document on LMS, send us that by mail the video. Use a mobile phone, have somebody record it, or if you have a tripod, use a tripod. Or get somebody. If you have a laptop, you want to use that, do that. No, you don't need that. You just the video. Okay, when you're making the video, you don't need the PPT along with that. You don't need to. It is just a video about the papers, but you need to cover whatever you have written. So you should be clear about that. But you don't need to additionally make one more PPT and present it. Not needed. Okay. Okay. All the best. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.